Hello, everyone. How is everybody tonight? How is everybody doing out there in the world? Of course, this is Unfound Live for December 16th of 2024. There was no show last week. I felt really bad about that. But to be honest, last Monday night, I went, being this is a thing that's going on with me, I went to bed I fell asleep about 9:30 last Monday night. So just keep that in mind. But I don't think that's going to happen tonight. And we'll get into that in a bit. But it's good to be here with all of you. I don't know how many viewers we will have tonight. This was a little more of a low-key publicizing of the live show. And I did not post the link and set everything up until later today because I wasn't sure how I was going to feel. But I feel pretty good. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I was going to be able to do this live show to a particular standard. Although I will admit that, like I said here, I posted in the chat before we got started tonight that it's probably a little more low key than what you're used to. Just trying to manage my energy. Have a really great show lined up for you tonight. I want to talk. I have to admit, I wanted to do this show for mainly one reason, and it has to do with these drones, drones that are flying all over the East Coast and maybe elsewhere. That is a topic that is rich for discussion, and I was like, I cannot let this topic go by. So I have to do a live show to talk about it. So going to spend some time on that. Going to get to a young woman who went missing in LA within the last couple of months, a story about her. And as you can also see in the title, I have Steve Pankey news. So fantastic show lined up for all of you tonight. And of course, we're going to get into some other things as well. As usual, I'd appreciate it if you could give this show tonight a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe and share this with all your friends and family, if you'd like. If they're into true crime and current news and stuff like that, I hope you will share this with all of them. And let's see who's in here. Lisa got in here first. Wow, she was early, 33 minutes early. Look at you, Lisa. Hello, Carrie. Assistant Carrie. Hello, Sarah. Yeah, Lisa's even saying first time her being in the chat. Hello, Stephanie, Amy, Kathy, Travis. Good to see you, Travis. Sarah and Stephanie, interested to hear your opinion on the drone. Saw one in November over an empty highway between New Jersey and New York before I'd heard about the drones in the news. It was huge. All right, Stephanie. We're going to get to that for sure. And I think what's going to help in that is my experience with, I love to watch planes. I've been a plane watcher, a jet watcher for a long time. When I lived in Las Vegas, the airport wasn't that far from where I lived. I'd go over there and watching the planes land and take off. Of course, living here at the beach, especially at night, you can see the jets and planes, propeller planes coming in off the Gulf. Of course, some of you know that I've posted video of the Coast Guard and their helicopters practicing out here at night. I have a lot of experience watching aircraft at night. So that's what I'm going to tap into for the drone discussion tonight. Hello, Dee. How are you? Good to see you. And Valerie, good to see you as well. But if you're wondering about me, before I get into that, I'm doing okay. I'm getting sleep. I just wouldn't call it to be very good sleep. Maybe a perfect example of that would be last night. That I went to bed at about 11:30. Fell asleep for probably a half hour. Went to sleep probably fairly quickly. Woke up a little past midnight and couldn't go back to sleep. And so I got up and I did a little reading, staying away from computers and everything. I actually got out a book and was reading a little bit of that, actually reading an actual book with pages made out, books made out of paper, a book made out of paper. And did that for about 20 minutes. Then went back into bed, couldn't sleep, couldn't get back to sleep. But then I came out, if you can imagine this. This just shows you how messed up everything is. I came out from my bedroom, went over here to the couch, lied down on my side, and I fell asleep within like 2 minutes. But I would, like I said, wouldn't say the sleep was that great. I woke up a couple times even after that. And then I woke up at like 7:30 this morning. So I've been up since 7:30 this morning. And you should know something that I'm really proud of for this month. When this really set in, like around November 22nd or something, that I went from November 22nd, the rest of so the 22nd was a Friday. So I went like 10 days over almost 2 weeks without going to the gym. And even though I've had sleeping problems this month, and here we are on the 16th, I've only missed 1 day going to the gym. So I've really made it a point to, when I get up in the morning, check and see what emails and things that I've gotten, anything important that has popped up. And then I'll be down to the gym. I'll get up at like 8 a.m. and I'm down in the gym at 9. So even though I'm not getting very good sleep and everything, I am going down. I'm hitting the treadmill. I'll walk on an incline for like a half hour, and then I'll lift weights for like 30 to 40 minutes. The big issue right now regarding that particular pattern is that by about 5 o'clock, I'm wiped out. Like today, and I'm not doing any mid-afternoon napping. I'm avoiding that, avoiding it. It's no good for your sleep patterns. But about 5 o'clock, my body feels like turning off. In contrast to the Ed that that is high energy and everything else. And so once I get by that, like maybe half hour of where I'm feeling really drowsy and everything, and my body's trying to shut off, I kind of come alive again. And that's kind of where I am right now. So it's so I'm averaging, I'm going to say somewhere in the realm of 6 hours of sleeping out at night, but it's not good 6 hours. Hello. Well, there's everybody say hi to my cousin Pam, who is in the chat tonight. Cousin Pam, she is the daughter of my mother's brother, my Uncle Ron. Good to see you in the chat tonight, Pam. That might be a first. You're finding out about some things that are going on with me. What's going on? Good to see you. But so that's what's been going on. And I think that I know what the cause is. I don't want to make it too public now. I don't think it's necessarily any big deal. I've had enough blood tests done on me and urine tests over like the last month to tell you there's nothing going on with me. If I had some sort of issue with any of my organs or anything. I've been eating really well and everything. It would have shown up by now. There's nothing there. This is something else. And just to give you an idea, when they checked my urine, once again, I don't mind people knowing about this stuff. That I checked my urine twice last month, like on the 4th and then on the 25th. No blood in it, no infection in it, nothing. But I am going to see a sleep doctor on Wednesday morning, and then I'm going to see a urologist on Wednesday afternoon. And if I had to, what I think is going on, I think it's a combination of a little bit of sleep apnea because, I am in my 50s. That's a possibility. I think it's that. And I also think that it's also an overactive bladder. I think that's what it's going to end up being. I think. If I had to make a prediction, which are all obviously both fixable, very curable, well, not curable, but very fixable, very common. Millions and millions and millions and millions of people have these issues. And it just, for me, I think it just came on very quickly, as all of you now know. And that's, remember how it all got started back at the beginning of November with me going to sleep and me having to get up like 6 or 7 times to go to the bathroom 3 nights in a row. I was fine during the day, but at night, I'd, have to go a lot. So that's why it's connected to my sleep somehow. I'm not doing that now because of medication I'm taking, but the issue now is finding good sleep somewhere. And I'm sleeping better than I was a couple weeks ago, certainly. But like I said, I'll get up in the morning and I'll feel like the regular me. But by about 5 o'clock, I hit the wall. So there you go. But I think this is going to get fixed. I think that Wednesday, talking to both these doctors, probably going to prescribe a sleep test for me, which I'm going to do. And then going to the urologist. It'll be interesting to see what that doctor has to say. But I'm actually, you usually don't get excited about going to doctors. I'm actually excited about going to these doctors to talk to them. So that's what's been going on with me. And given my, my work habits and everything, it's hard. I'll be honest with you. Of course, like I said, millions and millions of people all over the world. But of course, sleep problems, one of the most common problems that people have for all sorts of reasons, pain reasons, anxiety reasons, bladder reasons, all sorts of things, heart reasons. I mean, you name it. I mean, sleep problems, one of the most common problems for humans. And I will tell you, the way I've been dealing with it over the last month, I'm lucky I don't have a real job. I'm lucky I don't have a real job. Like if I was a teacher or an engineer, because I'm just miserable. I am just miserable to be around when I'm tired. Just the most, I'm a good guy. But when I'm tired, I am just miserable. I'm just as nasty can be. And so I'm very lucky probably to just be able to work from home, even though I'm putting the podcast on the hiatus for a little bit. But for all you people out there, I want you to know, for all you people, whatever issues you're having with your sleep, insomnia, anxiety, stress, only getting 4 hours of sleep a night, and it's not good sleep, and then you have to go to work and you have kids and everything. I just want you to know you just do not know how much respect I have for all of you. You just don't even know, because I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. And if I want to put my podcast on hiatus for a while, I can do that. For those people that can't do that, which is like 99.99% of the population, you get all the credit in the world to fight through this stuff. Because I can be just one miserable person. Hello, Donna. Don't be hard on yourself. I'm just telling the truth. I'm not being hard on myself. I'm not necessarily mad that I get cranky when I'm tired and everything. I'm just telling you the way it is. I'm just telling you. So, there's that. So that's what's been going on with me. And, the good news is that, like I said, compared to 2 weeks ago, I'm much better now, but I'm not where I need to be. And being that I'm getting to the gym, I'm eating well, eating healthy. Although I did have some Krispy Kreme donuts over the last couple of days. Other than that, it's been really, really pretty healthy, eating a lot of vegetables and, lean meats like chicken and turkey. I've been eating really, really well, because that was a problem early on when this started. That, I was stressed out about this and everything, and I wasn't eating very well. Well, I'm eating now, so that's good. But staying away from anything chocolate. Of course, I'm not a big caffeine drinker anyway, but this is what's been going on. And I don't sleep well since 4 a.m. Talk to you soon. Okay. All right, Pam. You don't sleep well either. Sorry to hear that, Pam. You're going to bed. Good to see you. Pam, thank you for making some time tonight. It's good to see you. Maybe I'll be up in Pennsylvania for Christmas. Maybe we can get together. TD, welcome to menopause, Ed. Look at you, TD. I think that's the first time the word menopause has ever been used in the chat in the 7 years of the Unfound Live show. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. So let's move on to some other things. There's a movie that I was finally able to see. You may remember maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I told you about finally seeing Oppenheimer. I thought it was okay. Not great, just okay. I'm interested in the topic. I think it's fascinating. I think it was overrated. I think it was too long. Of course, the acting and everything was good, but there's a lot of stuff about Christopher Nolan's filmmaking that I don't get. But I will tell you, a movie that did not disappoint me was A Haunting in Venice. I have Amazon Prime. It is now available on there. And man, that movie's good. I'm a big fan of the other two movies that Kenneth Branagh did regarding Agatha Christie. Of course, Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, all within the last 5 or 6 years or whatever. A Haunting in Venice was excellent. Man, it was creepy. What a fantastic, it came out at Halloween last year. What a fantastic Halloween movie. I thought it was really, really well done. In fact, since I've watched it, I've already watched it 2 more times while I've been just sitting here on the couch doing a multitude of things. So if you haven't seen it, I would go about trying to see it if you're into that type of movie. It's like, it's a mystery, but it's creepy. It's creepy too. So I saw that, and I was happy to finally watch that. I also watched the movie The Eiger Sanction with Clint Eastwood. Mezza on that. Kind of in between on whether that movie was okay or not. So I've been trying to catch up on some things. Once again, just trying to take it easy. And being that I do have Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus, and I really like to go back and try to find maybe some old movies that I have never seen or haven't seen in a while. So that's what I'm doing. All right, Carrie's back. Also, as maybe as you just heard me say maybe a moment ago, talking to my cousin Pam, that I am planning to go to Pennsylvania later this week. I am planning to drive. I don't know how it's going to work out. I'm certainly not going to push myself because it's not the regular ed right now. But I am going to be driving to Pennsylvania, go up to see my dad, hang out there for a while. That is, of course, with the permission of the doctors who I will see on Wednesday. I don't want anything to get in the way of me getting back to 100% as quickly as possible. I can, of course, get, if I have to get any prescription filled, I can certainly get that done in Pennsylvania. But the plan is later this week. I even cleared out my car today to drive up there. But like I said, I'm not trying to get up there in like 16, in 16 hours, because I can drive it in 16 hours if I really push it. I don't think, given my sleeping situation, everything, I'm going to be able to do that. So I have to be prepared to take a little rest in my car on the way up there. So that's what I'm doing with that. And I don't know how long I'll be up there. Probably into the new year. Probably I'll be up there for New Year's as well. Depending on what goes on with my health. Hopefully I'll get to see my buddy Brad. And obviously, I think I'm going to spend Christmas Eve with my brother Michael and his wife. And so that's going to be some of the things that are going on out there. And I'm just going to chill out. I'm going to sit on the couch and with my dad and do nothing and do whatever I can for doctors. What the doctors say, and try to manage getting back and getting some good sleep. Maybe a change of scenery might be good for me. Uneven says, on the 8th day, Nuclear Winter documentary. I think I'm familiar with that documentary, Uneven, although I haven't seen it recently. Yeah, interesting. Thank you for suggesting that, Uneven. All right, so that's what's going on with me personally. A lot of stuff. I think at least some of you are interested in what's going on with me personally, given that, we're not going to have any new disappearance episodes for a while. That's the only way I can put it. It is going to be a new episode this week, and it is going to be the update episode next week, for sure. But once we get into January, I cannot make any prediction when there will be new disappearance episodes. So that's just the way it is right now. All right, let's move on to the items that are mentioned in the title for this episode tonight. And I got a lot to say. Let's start with these New Jersey drones. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, the big thing, I don't know, going on, a month? My perception is this is news that, really, really became a thing after the election in the beginning of November. So maybe for the last month, there have been all these stories about these drones flying all over New Jersey and allegedly in swarms, and people talking about 50 drones coming in from the Atlantic Ocean and coming ashore. And I've seen some of these videos. What is going on here? How are we supposed to look at this? Is this some enemy of the United States doing surveillance work? Is this the military doing something? Is this a big prank? what is going on here. Now, you should know there have been some news stories within the last couple of weeks where some people have been arrested, but not in New Jersey. I was reading one where there was a Chinese citizen. You can look into that for however you want to view it, that had a drone and flew it over a military base in California. And they were able to track this drone to its location, and they caught this guy because of course, that's against the law to do that. And it did seem like this person was not an American. He wasn't just Chinese. He wasn't an American citizen, and might have even had plans on getting on a jet and flying back to China. So certainly something like that doesn't sound good. But I will tell you that this is not the way I view what. Now, once again, New Jersey seems to be getting all the attention, but I think if you look enough, this kind of thing is going on in a variety of locations, but New Jersey is getting all the attention, mainly because it's happening in one of the most densely populated parts of the United States. We have to remember that it's only a big deal if people see it. These drones are only a big deal if people see them. So we shouldn't be surprised then that in New Jersey, which is the most densely populated, it's not the most populated, but the most densely populated state in the United States, you then have all of these sightings. And of course, New York City's right there. Philadelphia's right there. Newark's right there. And of course, you go a little more south, and you're getting in Washington, D.C. really isn't that far from New Jersey. It's most populated, densely populated area of the United States. So you have a lot of eyeballs. And if there's drones in the sky, there's a lot of eyeballs to see those drones. In contrast, if you're flying drones out in the middle of Iowa, where there aren't a lot of people, and the odds of those drones being seen it's much lower. So we have to remember this. I also want to think about this, and this is where it gets a little frustrating for me. Week to 2 weeks, D says, Carrie, fly anything over military base, you're lucky. You are lucky to go to jail. Yeah, I guess, right. Yeah, that you're lucky you don't get shot down or, yeah, right, Carrie. But the way I look at this, and I actually posted this on my private Facebook page, and many of you are friends with me for my private Facebook page. I posted this within the last week or something. Here's what I think I know. That if, I live right here on the Gulf, I don't like to brag, but, I live here right on the Gulf Coast. You see this sliding glass door back there way in the back? The Gulf of Mexico is right there. It's the pool, then the beach, then the Gulf of Mexico right out there. And I can assure you that if there were drones coming in from the Gulf, I don't care if it was 1, 10, 50, or whatever. Even though I've been in a kind of a little bit of a diminished capacity over the past month, I know my curiosity would be like, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to go see where these drones go. What are they doing? Where are they going? I'd probably enlist my brother Brian because he would certainly be into something like that. He'd be very interested in, checking that type of thing out. I might also see if there's anybody else who wants to be involved in following these drones and everything else. My problem is that despite this hysteria, what I perceive to be all these people being concerned and everything, I don't see too many private citizens doing too much about that in New Jersey. And so that's when I start to think, is this really, really, really what's going on? Because I wouldn't think if that's what I were to do under circumstances here in Florida, I don't think that my decision making is that so far out of the norm. And given that you have so many people that my perception are being so reactive to it instead of proactive with it. And I don't mean government people, I don't mean the military, I don't mean the police. People were naturally curious people. This is why true crime itself is so popular. People love mysteries. People, want killers caught. People want mysteries solved. It's, millions and millions and millions of people, at least in the United States, get into this. But then we flip it around. It seems like New Jersey citizens are just kind of taking this line down. And, they're saying, well, these drones are flying back out into the water. Does nobody own a boat in New Jersey? Does nobody get the idea? Well, we see the drones come in from the water. We suspect probably they're going to be going back out into the water at some time. Hey, I'll get in my boat, go out there, and just wait for them to come back and follow them that way. It just doesn't seem anybody has done this. And this is what makes me think I think this is hysteria. Ronald, hello, Ron, back from the Leechburg days. Exactly. Why not toss your own drone up there and see what's going on? Exactly, Ron. I'm not sure too much can be done privately because at least the drone I saw was very large, like car-sized and very fast, too large to shoot down and too fast to chase. I don't know, Stephanie. The ones, once again, was it really large? Was it? I know I'm not trying to argue with you, but it just doesn't seem to me when people are curious. I mean, we know when there's shootings, we know all sorts of people just flock to this stuff. It's like I used to say when I was a filmmaker in Las Vegas, independent filmmaker with the men and women I was working with on that. It was one of those things, you set up a camera somewhere and it looks like a movie set. Before long, it'll be like 20, 30 people around wondering what you're doing out in some street. They won't have been there before, but it just, people see things and they're drawn to like moths to a flame. If this were something that was as big a deal as it's been made to be, you would think there'd be thousands of people being drawn to this and with their phones and everything else trying to get this all on video. And some have, but a lot fewer people than you would suspect or predict. Hello, Jane. How are you? A lot. I mean, you once again go to just right here on YouTube after the show is over tonight, of course. You go on YouTube and try to find people doing their own drone videos from New Jersey. You're not going to find very many. Go to TikTok, go to Instagram. You're not going to find that many people who have done that. Now, why is that? How is that possible? Every person pretty much in the United States carries a camera with him or her on their phone. But the videos of these drones are few and far between. How can that be? If these drones are out there night after night, not just one, but 10, but 50, how can it be that there's only a few videos of them? It's hard to understand. It's really, really hard to understand. This is kind of the same way. And by the way, I'm being proven right. On remember the UFOs and the little white tic tac that was, they made a big deal of that a couple years ago. And they're saying, well, this has to be a UFO. Well, if you haven't seen recently, they came out with once again, if you want to believe it or not, they came up with the official declaration on it. And of course, it was not a UFO. It was not. Of course, I knew it wasn't just from how those Navy pilots reacted to it. They really thought it was something that was dangerous and otherworldly. They wouldn't have been laughing at it on the video like they were. These guys and women, they are trained killers. They are up in the air for what reason? To protect the United States, to protect, the ships out in the ocean and everything else. They wouldn't be laughing at something if they thought it was mysterious or a danger. They wouldn't be doing that. That's how I knew it wasn't serious. So getting back to these drones, I will also tell you this, and this once again goes from my experience living here on the coast, seeing a lot of lights up in the sky at night, etc. Even for me, you don't know how many times I've been fooled because looking this way, I'm looking west. And a lot of jets coming into Tampa or going to Orlando, coming from this direction, coming from the western United States, most of the time from Texas, Houston, Dallas, coming over because Texas is right over there. Sometimes on certain nights, it's hard to distinguish between a jet and a planet. If the planet is really, really bright. And Venus, Mars, Jupiter, on certain nights, depending on where the sun and where they are in the sky and everything else, they can be very, very bright. And I will tell you, you can look at them and think, well, that's a jet with its light on coming into, it's going to soon fly over the Florida coast going. It looks exactly like a passenger jet. Because you have to remember, when you're looking at a passenger jet coming this way, because it's coming right at me, you can't tell that it's moving. Now, granted, they're moving like 300 miles an hour or something, but you can't tell that, especially at night. So the jets, when they get close to land, they turn on the one light. It looks exactly like a planet. And you really, really, really have to wait a long time to be able to tell the difference. I know that sounds weird, but you do not know how many times I've experienced this since living in this condo since 2019. You look out there, oh, it's a jet. It's a jet coming in. Interesting. And then you turn away, and like a minute later, you go look out, and it's like in the same location. Well, that's weird. And then you go away. I look out there a couple minutes later. It's in the same position because it's not a jet. It's a planet. Very, very similar. In addition, what I will tell you is that at night, just with lights, it is impossible to tell the size of things. Our perception, this is, our eyes are spectacular creations. The way we can distinguish things and how we can see with color, at least most people, some people are colorblind, etc. But we can see with colors. I forget how many different colors the human eye can see. Of course, like dogs can only see 5 or 6 different colors, 3 or 4 or 5 different colors, whereas humans can see hundreds of different colors, just little changes in shades. But when it comes to distance, the human eye, although we see in 3D, The human eye is not very good at that. This is how, like in many movies, that is how filmmakers can fool us. This is why, in certain special effects, they make something look really large. Well, what do? They just put it really, really, really close to the camera. And then they have the actor stand way far away and they keep it all in the frame and all clear. And this little, something then looks big and it looks like it's dwarfing the person, but it's not. Our eyes aren't very good at that, especially at night. So, Stephanie, the only thing I can say about the one I saw, which was before there were drones in the news, was it was flying low across the highway. So there's no question that it was not a plane. Okay. I'd have to see that one for myself, Stephanie. If you could find that video, if you want to post if you can find a link maybe somewhere here on YouTube or something, feel free to post that link here in the chat, Stephanie. I think everybody would like to see that. Ron, damn man, you're good. Very interesting. A new way to see the things for sure. Thanks, Ron. It's just, as I continue to say, when you don't have a girlfriend, you don't have kids, and you don't have any pets, you have a lot of time on your hands when you're not working on your podcast. And I've always taken an interest in planes and things. And so I'm used to looking up at things at night. And even with like the Coast Guard helicopters that do training out here a couple nights a week, it's impossible. Even though they have their lights on and there's a boat there and there's a boat sitting there and the helicopter's like hovering around and they're practicing, it's impossible to tell how far they are out in the water. Impossible. Not possible. And you just have the lights against a black background, the ocean, the Gulf, when there's no lights out there except for that. It's impossible to tell how big the helicopter is. It's impossible to tell how big the ship is unless you already know beforehand, which of course now I do at this point. Another thing you have to consider is, once again, going back to this densely populated area. It very well could be that hundreds of people are just seeing the same drone and they don't know it. 100 people seeing one drone does not make for 100 drones. It's only one. But being that they're so far away from each other, and of course you put a drone up, think about it this way. For all of you who have flown on a jet and you're coming into land, think about when the jet is almost about to land. It's like 100 feet, 200 feet above the runway. Of course, it's still outside the perimeter of the airport, but it's coming into land. You're only a couple hundred feet above the land, but just how far can you see in all directions? Far. It's not until you're basically on the ground that, you can't see in any particular direction. You're limited by the buildings, by the trees, but just getting yourself 100 feet above the ground, 200 feet, it is amazing how far you can see in all directions. So you have to think about that with a drone as well. When you put a drone up in the air, 100 feet's not that far. When we think about driving or something, 90 feet is the base path in baseball. It's not that far. But you go 90 feet straight up, it's amazing the better view that you're going to have of your surroundings. I don't know how tall this building is, but even between myself here on the 8th floor and the 20th floor, it is amazing how much more you can see just going from where I am on the 8th floor to the 20th floor. I've been up to the 20th floor. So when you reverse it and you're on the ground and that drone is 200 feet in the air or even 100 feet in the air. Just imagine how many people over a wide area can see that one drone because it's 100 feet high. Many, many hundreds, maybe thousands, depending on how populated the area is. So we have to keep that in mind as well. I'm just going to tell you this. I think that this is all overblown. I'm not saying there isn't maybe one suspicious operator or two suspicious operators of these drones who are doing stuff as pranks, but this has really become like War of the Worlds, which coincidentally, did that not also happen, portrayed to have happened in New Jersey as well? I think this is going to be much ado about nothing. The problem we have, and this is a media problem, this is a government problem, it's a lot of problems put together, is that at least here in the United States, we have become so cynical. Now, I'll admit, I'm a fantastic cynic. But we also have the problem that too many people want to believe something. If you don't like the current government administration, of course, we had an election that's going to be changing in January. Not here to get into politics. But if you don't like the current administration, what's their fault? You know, they're not doing, it's just one more way they're not doing their job. And so it's really your projection that you're putting into this drones. It's not necessarily true. It's just your feelings being projected onto the drone story. Likewise, if you're on the other side, well, isn't it interesting? This really didn't start until Donald Trump won the election. And so that's another, once again, a person's own feelings about the state of the country, the state of the world, the state of this, the state of that is then also projected onto those drones, if they even exist. People want, unfortunately, people wouldn't be thinking this if things were going the way they wanted. But we're always looking, once again, it's a human tendency to think badly about things. We want, we need that. I don't know. Some people just need that drama. We want it to be bad. So, Stephanie, I couldn't unlock my phone fast enough to capture it. Emerged from the tree line to the left, flew over the highway and out of sight. Roar, no other cars on the road. I don't know what to tell you, Stephanie. Carrie, I'm just sitting back and see what movie comes out in the next month or so, right? All I'm telling all of you is I would not be worried about this. There is no reason to be worried that there is a terrorist attack or something like this. No foreign power would really go about it this way, being this obvious. They wouldn't do it that way. It wouldn't be this obvious. It'd be more like September 11th, it comes out of nowhere. Whereas the drones have lights on them and they're doing it at a time where, people, they're not doing it. It's like 3 or 4 in the morning where everybody's in bed. At least most people are. No, they're doing it where a lot of people can see these drones and everything else. I think this is much ado about nothing, but nobody wants to hear that. People, this is why the media sucks in this country. The media is more than happy to leave you afraid. It's more than happy to scare you. There's no rationality, no logic to it. All these news companies, I don't care which one you listen to or watch, they all have cameras. Why don't they go down there and try to capture this stuff for themselves? The Weather Channel is more than happy to send all these people out when hurricanes are about to hit. How about sending people out to, really see what's going on here? But still, we have very, very little video for allegedly something that's happening every night all over New Jersey, populated areas, and we have very little proof that this is actually going on. But I live in Rock. I only heard it about a day or two ago. Yeah, what's been going on a little while, Carrie? Rodney, I don't think we have to be worried. I think they're just scared how we react when we find out the truth, and they're letting foreign agents spy on us and collect information. Rodney, I don't believe that's happening for us. Not for a second. Not for a second. I realize that a couple military bases and everything, they can collect information on us just by hacking into us like they do. What is aerial surveillance at night really going to get you? Even if they have night vision on these things, really, 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 what's it going to tell you? Not much. I mean, we already have, the funny thing is we have Google Maps and all of these bases, although some of them may be blurred out, like Area 51 and things, but most of them are not. And and Google's really, really, good at keeping all these pictures really updated, and really current and really crisp images, and you can do street views and everything else. I mean, what do these foreign powers need that they have to bring in drones too? It's hard to understand. Hello, what do you country? I don't know what that means, Bo. What do you country? And Paula says, it's the same as Carrie. I rarely watch the news. Okay, Paula. Me too. But when you anything that's gonna start getting into UFOs and drones that I come across, I just feel I have to get in on it because, like I said, I just don't fall into the I don't get caught up in the sensationalism. I don't know why that is. Maybe because is it because I've always been like this? Is it because of the podcast? I don't know. But I think I just try to imagine what I were to do if I were in New Jersey and this was allegedly going on, and I would have like 100 videos of drones by now. I mean, some of when these 2 hurricanes came through here, you saw how many videos I took of those. You got to see the videos from that. And I took more videos myself of those 2 hurricanes. I think any one person has done of these drones in New Jersey. How is that possible? Hard to understand. Stephanie, I don't think it's spy related either. People in the news say drones are hovering over their houses. I don't see what info could be gleaned by. I don't either. Over the average Joe's house. I don't either, Stephanie. This is like, remember how, what this reminds me also? Remember the alleged alien sighting in Las Vegas? It's amazing how quickly we forget about these things. Remember that? People make stuff. I mean, we know that even within the unfound world of disappearances, people make stuff up. It is amazing how many liars liars on important topics we have in this country. People who will say anything. People who will lie to get attention for themselves. People who will lie to get interviewed about something. People who will lie because they hope they're going to become an internet sensation like that girl who came up with that saying some months ago, which is like R-rated, if not X-rated, then I'm not going to say here. So many people are just dying to become viral. We can't discount that as well. It's horrible. It's a horrible part of the human personality that all of us have, and a lot of people are able to resist that urge and tamp it down and keep it under control. And, because we know, it's not a very good side of us. We shouldn't be doing that. There's legal and moral implications. There are a lot of people who will do it anyway. Carrie, most are not entirely blocked out, but some restricted areas are. Try use GPS on a base. I've been on Riley a ton of times over the last 6 years and still get lost. All right, Indonesia. All right, Bo. Welcome. Vicky, you are generous. Thank you, Vicky. What Vicky has done there is hit the super chat button tonight. And you can do that as well. That's a little green button down there at the bottom of the chat. I don't know if some phones, it doesn't appear on some phones if you're watching on your phone. Vicky, thank you so much. Thank you. So I just, I have to think, are they going to find a couple people who are flying drones? Yes. Are they going to find a group of spies flying 50 drones in off the Atlantic Ocean? No. Are they going to find 50? Are they going to find a couple pranksters? Maybe. Who, because of the story are now out there doing that just to razz people? Maybe. But I think that's it. I also, am reminded of this. When it comes to our politicians, to the people that have been elected, not just at the federal level, but in the state level, I guess specifically in that area of the United States, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, that area, they are more than happy to go off on this tangent of making it look like they're doing something about something that maybe doesn't even exist. They'd rather much more be talking about drones and UFOs than the national debt and all of the other problems that we have in the United States. So for them, they're more than happy to seem outraged. We can't get answers. We demand answers. They're more than happy to do that because they really don't want to talk about the real problems that this country has. So when you see them and they really seem concerned about this, yeah, because they don't want to change the topic. They're going to seem as concerned as possible because they love this topic. They don't love all those other topics, but they love this topic. That's the way I look at it. Once again, I know it's, not the way a lot of people look at it, but that's the way I look at it. They're more than happy to get all caught up in, what I would call frivolous matters in contrast to anything that's serious. Stephanie, I did see a giant drone. I can't speak to what anyone else is saying. This could be a hobbyist having a field day, Rodney. Yeah, I like Joe Biden optioning off border wall material for pennies on the dollar at the border. Yeah, we really try to stay away from politics, Rodney. That's why I'm trying to be very balanced here. I don't want to get into anything like that. I don't want to do that. Amy says, yes, Amy says it's a distraction. Yes. Yes. And when I say politicians, I mean all of them, not just the ones that you vote against. I mean all of them. Every single one of them. That's all right, Rodney. You know, I know what all you're saying. Well, my personal representative, my senator, the guy I just voted for president and everything, he wouldn't do that. Yes, they would. It's just, that's what I mean when it comes to politics and everything. I'm not taking any sides on any of this. I think it's all horrible. I know you think very, very highly of the people that you voted for back in November. You shouldn't think highly of them. So that's my take on this. I think this is going to be something that's going to be a big nothing burger. I think that, will we get answers? It's, you know what? It's very possible a month from now, everybody has even forgotten this ever happened. That's the way we are. Remember, Las Vegas, they, somebody actually said they actually called 911 to have the police officer show up because they said, yeah, there's an alien in my yard. An alien, like, I think of that movie Signs with Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix from like 20 some years ago, where they caught the alien walking on in that alley in like Mexico City. Remember during that movie? And think about that. Alien scene, police show up, they have it on video, people insist and everything, and it's just gone away. It's just gone away. This is probably what's going to happen here too. I'm not a believer in any of this. I think that what people have seen might have been a couple drones, but I also think it's possible that a lot of these are just jets, that these are small private planes, that they're helicopters and everything else at a distance, that they're far enough away that you can't hear them. Maybe the wind's blowing in a certain direction. Remember, that affects how if you can hear something or not. And that's why it seems like they're silent. A lot of weird things, especially at night. Especially at night. You would be surprised what people call 911 for, I bet, Carrie. They are coincidentally releasing classified information about aliens. So, yeah. More than happy to distract you. More than happy. More than happy. So that's that. That's all I really want to say about it. It's a big nothing burger. People lie. People sensationalize. People see things that they really don't see. Say they see things they really don't see, on and on and on. And this is how this all gets spun out of control. And we have a bunch of people, especially on the internet, especially on YouTube, who are more than happy to push forward these kinds of stories. So moving on, I never did talk last week. I didn't get to talk about, of course, we had the disappearance of Keith Mann. Went missing in Wichita Falls, Texas in 1997. It's a disappearance that's been compelling to me for a long time. In the discussion group in the poll, foul play was overwhelmingly the most popular answer. In the think tank, although that was a week and a half ago, somewhat mixed. And then I will admit, in writing the blog at patreon.com, yes, I got it done, even though things haven't been perfect for me. I got it done. I decided that, believe it or not, I did decide that Keith did disappear due to foul play. How about that? So if you'd like to see how I got to that answer, you can go to patreon.com/Unfound podcast and sign up to partake in the Unfound blog. I am going to try to continue to do some writing there while the new episodes take a hiatus. I'm going to try to do that when I can. Moving on. Let's just get right to this. As you can see, one of the headlines for tonight's live show was Steve Pankey news. The news, and I'm finally ready to go public with this, is that I have gotten my hands on the discovery materials for the first Steve Pankey trial from 2000. What would that have been? 2021. I got them. They are extensive. Estimation is about 6,500 pages. And, well, maybe let me think about this. 65, maybe more like 5,500 pages. I've gone through about 1,200 of them so far. And they are an eye opener. One of the big things one of the big things about all of it, and I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit, but not very much. Between the end of 1984 and going into like 1986, so all of 1985 and then a little back into 84 and then a little into 86. There might have been 1,000 called in sightings of Jonelle Matthews. That's probably a little bit of exaggeration. It's probably more like 500, but still. From all over the place. It is amazing. And so once again, getting back to like the UFOs, when people saying they saw things, but they didn't, all over the United States. It's like almost every state in the union is represented in those files, with somebody contacting the Greeley Police Department and saying, I think I saw Jonelle Matthews here. This includes my state of Florida. In fact, I think there was at least a couple sightings just here in the St. Pete area in 1985. And all of those, I'm guessing all of them, those reports are in the files that I got. Page after page after page of reports in handwriting going back to that time, of people calling it in, of seeing Jonelle Matthews. Now, of course, we know eventually the Jonelle Matthews was found not that far outside of Greeley, Colorado. Of course, she was buried. She had been murdered. She had been shot. So my thinking is probably most, if not all, of those sightings were wrong. But it is amazing how many sightings there were of her. Now, it probably helped that Ronald Reagan mentioned her in one of his speeches in early 1985, and that kind of put her disappearance on the map. And as you could see, as you could tell, that's a double-edged sword. It's great for publicity, but then you get the police, the investigators, get inundated with all sorts of sightings all over the United States. One in California, then the next one's in Maine, the next one's in Washington, the next one's in Florida, the next one's in Alaska, the next one's in Hawaii. How could you ever be able to start being able to tell if any of them are real and which ones are real and which ones are fake? And how do you know they're not all fake? Because they're surely not all real. How do you separate the real ones from the fake ones? Even though you're probably thinking they're probably all fake. So that was, that's something that has stuck out to me so far. Of course, a lot of things that I'm not going to go public with them right now, but there's that. And what I will also tell you about the discovery materials. And when I say discovery materials, if you don't know what I mean, this is all of the information that was collected before the trial happened, the first one. All right, once again, these are the discovery materials for the first trial, not the second one. So what I'm also saying, though, is that a lot of this material, for whatever reason, one reason or another, did not make it into that trial. And even for me, even with of course, the interview that I did with Steve, I don't know how many of you know this, but the entire interview was not included in the trial. Most of it was. Remember, that interview with Steve is quite long. It's over 3 hours. But they edited out some of it because some of it was deemed to be prejudicial and, both things that Steve said and things that I said. So you have to understand that. So when it comes to the rest of the materials that could possibly be included in a trial, it's the same way with that stuff. There are just certain things that could not be included for one reason or another. I'm not claiming that any of the information was collected, because I think people, when they think about stuff that information that gets collected but isn't allowed in the trial, they automatically start thinking, well, it was gotten illegally. Well, that certainly can happen, but I don't think that was the situation here. I don't think there was any information collected that was rejected because, they didn't have a warrant or something like that. That is, I wouldn't say that. But I will tell you this. Just when you think you know a murder, just when you think, at least for me, this has been part of my life, both public and personal life, for the last 5 years. And, I have to admit, I will admit, after the show came out in August, I was thinking, well, I was surprised. There were things that came out in the show on the Oxygen Network. There were things that I didn't know. And, I got to thinking, I was like, well, how much can there be then now that I don't know? Well, going through these discovery materials, there are quite a bit of things that I didn't know. And you should know, of the 1,200 pages that I've gone through so far, Steve has only been a part of maybe 10 pages. That's it. Now, I have a long way to go. But, there were a lot, as I suspected, maybe, although I didn't have any proof of it, there were a lot of people that had things to say about Jonelle's disappearance and suspicions and acting strange. And, one of the things you do find out about in these discovery materials is the other suspects they looked at that aren't named Steve Pankey or Norris Drake. Those people are in there. And that's fairly compelling as well. So I've learned quite a bit. And like I said, I'm only like 1,200 pages of like 5,500 pages into this. And I'm certainly learning stuff. It's been very, very interesting. Now, my hope, so I'm just revealing this for the first time. Now, you have to understand something. Now that I've told you all of this, that, and maybe I've said this already, it's hard for me to remember, but I will tell you that I asked the DA, Michael Rourke, for the discovery materials. And he sent me back a letter saying that he was not going to give them to me. So I went through other means to get them. And so I have them now. And so this is the first time I am publicly acknowledging the DA, Michael Rourke, did not want them to send them to me. but I got them anyway. So here on December 16th of 2024, I am revealing that. And I will continue to go through them as best I'm able, managing my energy as has been the last month or so. But I hope sometime in 2025. Now, you should know, I think I already told you this, like 3 weeks ago, I did talk to a lawyer about this topic and some other topics. And my plan at this point, unless the lawyer tells me otherwise, my lawyer, and I'm not going to make this stuff public until I am sure that I am legally allowed to do so. So, but I'll continue to go through the files. But if my lawyer says that, yep, got no problems with them, and then no problem with that, then you can surely plan for in 2025 that there will be a series on going over these discovery materials. Now, the big question you're probably wondering right now, was there anything in there that proves that really does scientifically prove that Steve did it? Or is there anything in there that scientifically proves that he didn't do it? So far, the answer to me would be no, either way. All I will tell you is that there were more suspects, many more, than Steve and Norris Drake. And I don't know. I have to admit, I don't know if that came out in the trial or not. So there you go on that. I think let me see what everybody is saying here now. Rockford says, I used to think foul play, but your episode pushed me toward walk-off. Can't get over the fiancé timing, perhaps pressured into the engagement, maybe snapped based on stress from multiple sources. Okay, regarding Keith Mann. All right, thank you, Rockford. Yeah, okay. Good to see you, Rockford. Carrie, coverage is a double-edged sword. As much as we really want a case heard, sometimes too much hurt is a distraction. Kathy, Rockford, agree with you about Keith. Nothing pointed towards foul play for me. D says, oh, wow, Rockford, agree, Carrie. I think one problem is that we all have drama in our lives, and the more one's life is under the microscope, the more it distracts from the relevant facts of the case and victimology. Rugg, yes, Kathy, other coverage really played up the drug angle and car tampering, but Unfound did his usual great job of taking the broader view and focusing on the individual. Thank you. Drew, the USA. I really don't know about that. Well, Sebastian Rogers' case, I know they have said he's been seen twice, but none of them were him. Yep. Rockford, drug angle does not refer to anything Keith was doing, but rather alleged activities at dealership. Yeah. Gotcha, Rockford. Going back to Keith Mann. So, yeah, Keith Mann, tough one. Getting back to that for a moment, tough one. As I talked about in that episode. So getting back to the discovery materials, I'm going to continue to read through them. They will not be made public anytime soon. I have sent them to my lawyer so he can look over them to see what he thinks of them, so he can give me a good opinion on the ability, the legality of making them public for everyone to see or not. But I am going through them, and I would just give you a little nibble on that. Moving on, Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman, as I stated in the most recent episode, that I'm predicting in 2025 that that is going to be a series. I don't know when. And what I mean by that is I'm going to be able to interview multiple different people. Maybe a good example would be with what Payne Lindsay did at Up and Vanished with Tara Grinstead. I think we'll might have the ability to do something like that for the disappearances of Teresa Hickman and Angela Westbury. Why I've been... What has it been about their disappearances that caught my attention a long time ago? I don't know. Just two young women going missing, getting on a boat and going missing. And the boat seems to still be out there somewhere, but there's no corresponding missing guys. Well, what are we talking about here? And already, like I've said, could not have predicted where this was going to go. Assistant Eric has been doing spectacular work on this and just could have never, ever predicted the direction this was going to go. So that'll be something that's happening in 2025. That'll be something new. Have a chance to work on that in 2025. But, and they are on, if you want to go check it out, you can go read both of their disappearance on the Charlie Project. They are on NamUs. But it's just been amazing to me that not too many people have really done a deep dive on both of their disappearances. But now that, we've kind of cracked this nut open a bit, now I can see why. Now I can see why that nobody's really done that for them. Now I can see. It took some special doing to get where we are even to this point. And Eric is still waiting for a lot of paperwork still to be coming in. But just the conversations he's had so far, It's interesting. And although I haven't spoken to anybody in Teresa's family, I did speak to the sister of Angela Westbury. Was it last week or was it the week before? These days run together given what's been going on recently. But you should know that at least one member of one of their families knows what has been going on. Some years ago, I did speak to Teresa Hickman's parents. But even at that time, they were old. And in fact, since then, her father has died. I think her mother is still alive. But you have to remember that Teresa Hickman was 20 in 1984. So I think her mother is like 90 or something like that now. So, and I think that she has a sibling, but at least the way it went some years ago when I talked to her parents, it didn't sound like the parents wanted me to talk to this sibling at all. But I guess that's still a possibility as we continue to move forward. Maybe that will happen. Surely all of Angela Westbury's family is ready to talk because I spoke to her sister, like I said, last week or whenever it was. And we spoke for quite a while because I was just filling in her on what's been going on. The truth is I made a promise to both those families. I don't know, 2017 or something, that I told them that this is not something that I'm going to let go. And finally things lined up here in 2024 where I could put somebody on the job. That would be Eric, who is used to doing this kind of thing, has experience in this area, given the work that he's done on a variety of disappearances, that he was able to finally kind of crack this nut open. And it is a big nut for sure. So if you've not heard of those disappearances before, I would start educating yourself on them. Teresa Hickman, Angela Westbury. Please do that. All right, moving on. As far as want to, maybe this is something I want to get into just very quickly. Maybe just as a kind of a reminder for everybody, even though I know this was just one person typing one thing, maybe I need to reiterate this again. Somebody, although the post has been deleted now by me, somebody was critical of me of how I interviewed the parents of Keith Mann, saying, well, all you want to do is get to the facts. Don't you know that these people are in pain? Don't you know that they want to talk? Don't you know that they have emotions and everything else? And I think specifically what this person was talking about was how Mr. Mann, Greg, eventually, when he did get involved in the conversation, of course, it took him a little while. Fine by me. That's not a criticism. But he really wanted to go on and on about nobody knows what it's like. And I realize that's important for, in his mind, it's important for him to say. But, why don't I let people go on and on about their frustrations and people don't know how they feel and everything else? I'll tell you why. Because that's not what solves disappearances. Unfound is meant to be constructive. I mean, as you know, I certainly do let people, we've had guests who have cried during interviews. We've had people who, had a hard time coming up with the right words to express their feelings about what's going on. I certainly give an opportunity. Almost every single interview I do with a family member or friend, what do I ask? How hard has the last 20 years been? How hard has the last 5 years? I let them do that. But I don't do interviews where I just let people talk about how tough it's been. I don't just let them do that for 2 hours because that's, once again, I know that's the truth. And I know it sucks for them. And I know, thinking about what's been happening to me recently, I try to remember all of those guests that I've had on Unfound for the last 8 years have it worse than I've had it over the last month. I try to try to keep everything in perspective. But people just expressing their emotions is not productive. It's not constructive. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a shrink. I'm not a therapist. I'm here to get the information out there, the most accurate information out there in the quickest way possible. That's what my job is. Because I think that is what solves disappearances. Whereas if I were to just let guests come on and then we never talk about the facts at all and they just talk about how hard it's been, I don't know what that does for anybody. I really don't know. I'm here to be constructive. And if sometimes that comes across, I guess maybe to some people, as being rude, I can't help that. I can't help that. So that is why I don't let people go on and on about their frustrations, whether, their emotions, their frustration with the police, or we get into that. There's a time and a place for in every interview for that. But my job is to make sure all of you understand the disappearance, the facts, because you never know. Once again, you never know who's going to hear one of these interviews in Wichita Falls or somewhere else. And something's going to ring a bell. Whereas if you're just talking about emotions, that's not going to ring anybody's bell. So D says, I would like to get my hands on the 911 calls from Summer Wells. Yeah. Well, you know all about that, D. The certain things they're not going to give up. Even though sometimes 911 calls are made public, it just depends. It just depends. So if you're wondering about that, if some of you going back to a week and a half ago when that episode came out, and Greg was, expressing his frustrations and emotions and everything else, and some of you maybe thought that I was kind of trying to move things forward, you're probably right. You're probably right. Like I stated back with the Joe Bushling episode, I guess it was, sometimes these people need help that they don't know they need. Sometimes they need help. They want a certain kind of help, when really they need a different kind of help. And in their fragile emotional states, sometimes they can't be the best judges and being objective about what they need. And so I have to do that. Being that I'm the one that has to be objective about all of this, and being that I'm not emotionally involved in these disappearances, and that I am a reporter, I'm the one that has to figure that out. And a lot of times these people, you have to give them the help they need, not the help they want. And the only way you can do that is, of course, doing 350, disappearance episodes. So I got that criticism. It reminded me that I needed to talk about that. I've probably been wanting to talk about that for a while. All right, let's go to this disappearance in LA of Jonelle Bryan. And I'm going to use this as an example of what not to do, how not to report on a missing person. So former state senator Stephen Bradford steps out it's from the LA Times, steps out into the bright and blazing Westlake sun wearing a dark gray suit and armed with a roll of tape. He fixes a poster to the side of a street light. It reads, Jonelle Bryan, 23, missing from LA since October 16th. Longtime politician shakes his head. 2 months is far too long for a young black woman to be missing without any word of progress on solving her case, he says. When black women and children disappear, resources are not committed to find them. We need to ask ourselves, why is that? Black youth make up 40% of all cases of missing people in America, but just 15% of the country's overall youth population. I don't know if that's true or not. The disparity prompted Bradford to author legislation in 2023 to create the Ebony Alert system to help law enforcement find missing black youths ages 12 to 25. I would argue we have too many different alert systems. At some point, the public's not going to pay attention to any of them. An Ebony Alert was issued for Bryan on November 19th, noting that she was last seen near the 2000 block of West 8th Street. Several weeks later, there's no update available on her case, according to LAPD. Fed up with the lack of progress, Bryan's family members in Bradford joined forces with volunteers from the Black and Missing Foundation to hold a community search event in hopes of gleaning a clue that might lead to her whereabouts. On Tuesday, the group of volunteers canvassed the neighborhood where Bryan was last seen, taping up posters, handing out flyers, and talking to shopkeepers and passersby. It feels incredibly eerie to be standing in a place where someone last reported seeing my sister, said Jacque Brian Gooden at the start of the search. I'm glad to be surrounded by community and no longer feel alone trying to find answers. Bryan graduated from Cornell in 2023 before moving back home with her mother in Eastern Pennsylvania. There, his sister said Bryan gradually cut off all communication with friends and family. This fall, Bryan moved to LA, where she last communicated with her ex-boyfriend in October via email. Bryan Gooden remains hopeful she will find her sister, although they hadn't spoken for about a year before her disappearance. She is unwavering in her values. She approaches any situation that's challenging with confidence and determination. Bryan Gooden reported her missing on November 13th, and an Ebony Alert was issued on November 19th. Bradford said law enforcement is capable of issuing an alert for a missing person instantaneously, but added that it seems like there is always a delay when it comes to people of color and specifically African Americans. There's delays for everybody. The LAPD declined to comment on why it took 6 days to issue Bryan's alert. We know why they did. Bradford also pointed to the stark contrast of how law enforcement and the media responded to the case of Hana Kobayashi, who was also reported missing in LA in November, and that of Bryan. Bryan's case has been written about by KTLA, NBC, and The Times. A Google search shows more than 100 news articles have been published about Kobayashi since she was reported missing on November 11th. Totally different circumstances. You can't compare the two. Natalie Wilson, co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation, said that media attention can play a key role in helping solve missing persons cases. Many times a reporter will reach out to law enforcement to get an update on the case, and you start seeing traction. Start seeing them reaching out to the family, conducting interviews and searches. That's why media coverage is so important. Increasing attention to missing persons cases was a key reason Bradford pushed for the establishment of the Ebony Alert system. Since it was enacted in California in January, 32 alerts have been issued, 27 young Black people found. Is that because of the alert or not? I don't know. States including Massachusetts and Tennessee are now looking into enacting their own version of the system. Still, there are many instances when a young Black person is eligible for an Ebony Alert, and one is never issued. Often, missing Black youths are victims of sex trafficking and are classified as juvenile prostitutes. Instead of listing them as abducted, they are listed as runaways. Yeah, that happens for everybody. Brian Gooden said she was worried her sister might have been a victim of sex trafficking. Several weeks ago, someone called the phone number on Brian's missing persons poster and said they had seen her in LA living with someone who they believed to be a pimp. When I heard that, my heart dropped. Brian Gooden is, however, feeling a renewed sense of hope following the community search on Tuesday. She said two shopkeepers reportedly recently seeing someone who matched Brian's description. Carrie says, I am not pro more alerts. People are already tuning them out and complain when the alerts interrupt their lives. I am proud tight restrictions are on what should and should not qualify. Me too, Carrie. It's like, remember the system, the terror alert system they had after 9/11? For anybody that's old enough to remember that. Remember there was like green, orange, red, yellow, blue, whatever it was. You know, the terror threat level is this right now. Remember it was for weeks, months, I don't know, years. You never hear about it now. What eventually happened, people, even with 9/11, people eventually move on with their lives and they stop paying attention. That's what happens. That's what happens. These alert systems, people tune them out. People don't have the time. And there's no matter if you call it the Ebony Alert system, the Amber Alert, whatever name, the Silver Alert, everything else. Do they work? I'm not saying they've never worked. I'm sure there are times when they have worked. And I suppose they're easy to enact, but for all of the eyeballs that those alerts get in front of, it's amazing how most of the time, I think, these people are found through other means. Meaning, yes, that child was found, and yes, there was an Amber Alert put out, but the child was not found because of the Amber Alert. Now, getting back to this article, I said I was going to say why, they did, a lot of complaining in this article about how the media doesn't want to pay any attention. LAPD, not taking it seriously. They want media attention, everything else. The problem we have with this article is this article basically told you nothing. Now, her family got interviewed. We have this former state senator who got interviewed. It's a big deal. Ebony Alert. This should be the way of how this is done. But in this article, we get very, very, very few facts. Now, whose fault's that? Here's whose fault it's not, probably. It's probably not the reporter's fault. Look at all the things that are not answered. Where was she living? I mean, it does say where she, the block, where she was last seen. Why don't they give the specific address? It says an AMB alert was issued for Brian on November 19th, knowing that she was last seen near the 2000 block of West 8th Street. Why don't they give the exact location? Why? In addition, so we don't know where she was living. We don't know if she had any roommates. How did she get to LA? What was she doing for money there? Who were her friends? When was the last time she posted on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or anywhere? None of it. Who was the last, she said, she was seen on this block. Who was the last person to see her that you believe? Nothing. Did this whole article complain. Very few facts. So getting back to what I was just saying about the Keith Mann interview, this is what I mean. If you're just going to let people talk to the media and they're just going to give off, we're frustrated, we're not being paid attention to, nobody knows how we feel, guess what? The more then the facts don't get mentioned. Facts are what are going to solve these disappearances, not emotions, not the expressing of feelings. Carrie, crazies find phone numbers and does crazy. I'm good with not giving full physical address. Block is sufficient. I'm not, Carrie, I'm not. I'm not satisfied, yes, but more important facts being released should happen. Yeah. You can't, on one hand, complain about how nobody's giving you help, and we can't get the information out there. Nobody's paying attention to us. But then when you do have a reporter talking to you, that you only give out a couple facts. This is what frustrates me. Really, really frustrating to me. Now, what do I think's going on here? Well, it's hard to say. Why is it hard to say? Because we don't have many facts. We have complaints about the system. We have complaints about the LAPD. We have complaints, comparing her disappearance to the other young woman who went missing. Problem is, even for me, a guy who does this as his job, it's a little hard to tell what, it very well may be that Janae just doesn't want to have anything to do with her family anymore. For whatever reason. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just hard to say. Maybe she did get caught up with the wrong guy. What caused her? We don't know what caused her to go to LA in the first place. Did she know anybody when she was going down there? What was she planning to do down there? Did she talk? Nothing. And at some point, maybe we have to start thinking, maybe this was her plan all along. Just maybe. So it's a very good example of how not to report on a disappearance. And this is the exact reason that I do the interviews the way I do them. I don't just allow people to get on there and, express their feelings. So I'll try to keep eyes on this to see what could have happened to her. Very well, she could have got caught up with the wrong guy or anything, but my spidey sense tells me that a young woman who graduated from Cornell University probably did not get caught up in sex trafficking or something. Probably. Rockford, it doesn't mention that MacArthur Park, where she went missing, is an open-air drug market. Does that mean she's on drugs? Of course not, but in the absence of some more details, me may wrongly assume it. Yeah, you know this area, Rockford. You need your facts. This is poor reporting. And like I said, you can put maybe a little blame on the reporter, but the main goes to the people who know Janae and want the information out there, but they're just as vague as possible. So maybe she did. Maybe this is, a drug thing, Rockford. My question would be, did she really have to go from Pennsylvania to California to get caught up in drugs? So I'm going to guess probably there's more to it than that. This fall, I'll just read this again. This fall, Brian moved to so she was only there a short time. I don't know. Don't know. I think we have to be open to the idea that she just didn't want to be around her family anymore for whatever reason. I don't know. Moving on. This is probably the last thing I'm going to get to on here. Did you hear about this update on that kayaker? Remember the guy who was married and had kids? Faked his own death and then went to Uzbekistan. Remember that story? Well, he's back in the United States. Ryan Borgwart, the Wisconsin man who allegedly faked his death and fled the country, has been charged with obstruction. Borgwart returned to Green Lake, Wisconsin on Tuesday, so last Tuesday, nearly 4 months after he was reported missing when he failed to return home from kayaking on Big Green Lake. After weeks of searching for him, the Green Lake County Sheriff's Office determined he had staged his death and left his wife and 3 children for Eastern Europe. On Tuesday, Borgwart was found to have been booked into the Green Lake County Jail in Green Lake. Sheriff Mark Podol said Wednesday morning during a press conference that Borgwart had flown back to U.S. soil on his own. Arriving Tuesday, he was then booked into the county jail. Multiple charges have been referred to the district attorney's office. Borgwart has been charged with obstruction, a misdemeanor in connection to the extensive search that was launched for him. A judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf and set a bond at $500. The Borgwart only has to pay if he violates the conditions of his release from jail. The 45-year-old said he would represent himself, but a court-appointed lawyer is also possible. After Borgwart was reported missing on August 12th, deputies found an unoccupied kayak with a life jacket attached to it. His vehicle was also found near Big Green Lake. Search efforts to find Borgwart were conducted for over 54 days before authorities announced in early November that they believed that he planned his own disappearance and tried to conceal his efforts to mislead investigators. Authorities said he also moved funds into a foreign bank and changed his email address while communing with a woman in Uzbekistan. In addition, Borgwart reportedly took out a $375,000 life insurance policy, allegedly to support his family in Wisconsin, and purchased airline cards. Deputies were ultimately able to make contact with Borgwart. What a name. B-O-R, by the way, if you're like, what's that name end? B-O-R-G-W-A-R-D-T, Borgwart. On November 11th, during their investigation into his disappearance, Borgwart confirmed he had attempted to fake his own death and explained he did it because of personal matters. You don't say. He told them in mid-August he traveled about 50 miles from his home in Watertown to Green Lake, where he overturned his kayak, dumped his phone, and then paddled an inflatable boat to shore. He said he picked that lake because it's the deepest in Wisconsin. After leaving the lake, he rode an electric bike about 70 miles through the night to Madison. From there, he took a bus to Detroit, then boarded a bus to Canada and got on a plane. Borgwart also provided a video to officials confirming he was alive and safe and residing in an apartment which authorities believed to be somewhere in Eastern Europe. Authorities have since learned that he was in the country of Georgia, not the state of Georgia, the country of Georgia. He staged his death, and unfortunately, one of the things he did say is that he didn't expect us to go more than 2 weeks searching for him. I'd hate to tell him that he picked the wrong sheriff in the wrong department, said Green Lake Sheriff. Yeah, that's funny. We brought a dad back on his own accord, Podol added, after thanking the community, federal authorities, and the media for helping them track down Borgwart. Sheriff said it will be up to the court to decide whether Borgwart would owe the restitution for the search efforts expended by the sheriff's office. No one else is expected to face charges in the case. Borgwart was not extradited, but came back on his own. When asked what compelled him to return, the sheriff suggested it was his family, but he could not comment on whether Borgwart had been in contact with his wife and 3 children. So this guy came back. Rockford, exactly. But if we all have is the address, it leads to assumptions that could be totally off base. It could be Rockford regarding back to Janae. So regarding Mr. Borgwart, Ryan, I'll say what I said before. If you are a person who wants to leave your life and you want to stay in the lifestyle to which you have become accustomed, it's going to be very, very difficult to cover your tracks. Very difficult. Whereas if you're willing to just leave your life totally and start from scratch, start from nothing, new name, stay in the same country, no money, everything else, then you're more likely to succeed. But if you like all the cushy stuff, if you like a roof over your head and you like money and you like staying healthy and you like eating normal meals and everything else, then you disappearing is going to be very difficult. And that's why I think that when we've seen these situations, even if we want to use a disappearance like Trevor Nichols, who was proven to be alive some years after he went missing from New York, and he was found to probably be a homeless person in San Diego. There's a reason that he was homeless in San Diego and missing, and that he did not go down there and become a teacher or a truck driver or something like that. The only way he was able to stay off the radar for all these years is because he's living on the streets, seemingly. Guess you could say that about Brandon Roberts. He was also homeless and managed to stay missing. And we can cite some others. You know, there are, of course, examples of people who we never got to feature on Unfound, like Lori Ruff, who stole a dead baby's ID, and she started from scratch, new name and everything else. If you want to do it that way, you can. But if you want to set something up like a golden parachute for yourself, then this is probably what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying people like that, you know, are going to come back from wherever they are if they do go to another country like he did. You know, maybe he's, grew a conscience at some point, I guess, within all of this. But you'll go to another country, maybe one without an extradition policy. And once again, it doesn't even seem like what he did here is that big of a deal. It's a misdemeanor. The big thing is going to be, they're probably going to make him pay for all of the work that they did trying to find him. And that could get expensive. And he's going to have to pay that off over time, probably going to take a while. But even if you're planning to go to another country that doesn't have an extradition treaty, Uzbekistan, Georgia, Kazakhstan, pick one of those types of countries, probably authorities are probably going to be able to track you down. Might not be able to do anything about it. And you may stay there for the rest of your life and everything, but you will not have what we would call disappeared. We'll know exactly where you are. Whereas you want to be homeless, easy to disappear. It'd be easy to do that. So there is that story. I have to admit, I'm surprised he came back. He went the whole way to Uzbekistan for a woman, and then I guess turned around. I guess things weren't so good in Uzbekistan. Rockford travel brag alert. Georgia is actually a cool place to visit. Beautiful scenery, so food, first-rate capital city, Tbilisi. Yeah, Tbilisi, or however they say that. Right. Yeah, so I guess he was in both those countries, Uzbekistan and Georgia. I guess they must be near to each other. Don't ask me to pick them out on a map. Is there anything else that I want to go through here? Oh, yeah. Well, what's going to be coming up the next couple of weeks? This Friday, Dr. Telesco will be making another appearance on Unfound. Of course, she has had me on her show so many times. couple times a semester at least. And I just thought maybe it's time to have her on again. I did do an in-depth interview with her a couple years ago on her biography, her background, and everything. This time we concentrated more on education, her working at the NYPD Police Academy, and then also how she transitioned to, actually, working higher education with college students. And then at the end, she did pass along some New York Police Department stories. So we did that last Tuesday, and that will be coming out this Friday. And then next Friday, the final Friday of 2024, where I will most likely be in Pennsylvania, barring some sort of weird thing. That will be update episode number 19. Really not sure. Once again, kind of like what I said when I did the last one in August. Not sure how many updates we really have. It's been a slow year, unfortunately. It's been a slow year for, discoveries of missing people. It's been a slow year for even any big breaking news, maybe a disappearance not being solved, but, a lot more information coming out about one of Unfound's disappearances, one that we've covered. It's been a really, really slow year. It has to bounce back eventually. As you know, some of those update episodes have gotten pretty long. This will be another short one, I think. So I got to believe at some point it all bounces back. Kind of goes in cycles for whatever reason. And you'd think we have 360 some disappearances now. You'd think that would make the update episodes longer because there's more that can happen in all these disappearances. It's not been the way it's gone for whatever reason. And maybe one more thing. Of course, we this story that came out in New York City. Of course, this Brian Thompson, the CEO of that healthcare company who got assassinated, and the guy that was eventually caught. How many of you have a keen enough eye to notice that non-friend of Unfound Phil Klein made an appearance in one of those interviews about that? How many of you caught that? Of course, Phil Klein, private investigator involved in the disappearance, the investigation into the death of Tom Brown. He was actually interviewed by Fox News about this murder that happened. How has it been, a couple weeks now or something? Can you believe that? I thought that Phil's singular focus in his life was trying to figure out who murdered Phil Klein. I guess not. So that's all I have for all of you. Lisa says, I love Dr. Telesco. Me too, Lisa. Me too. But that's all I have for you tonight. So happy to be able to do this tonight. Wasn't sure that I was going to have the energy or not, but I couldn't pass the opportunity to talk about drones. So there you go. But I hope you all have a great week. Hope you all get some great sleep out there to make up for what I'm not getting. And I hope to turn this all around soon. Newsom says he knows where everyone is, so why any missing? Glenn, hello, Glenda. Have a good week. Hope you're getting more back to normal. Thank you, Stephanie. And that's all I got for all of you tonight. So thank you so much for everybody tuning in tonight on at least a little bit of short notice. And yes, this will be coming out as a podcast tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Great seeing all of you. I hope you enjoyed seeing me. See ya.